Hey everybody, welcome to Office Hours. Today we are talking about how to make events work harder. This is gonna be really cool, and events are important. I don't know that we've done a webinar on events before, so I'm really excited to dive into this. My name is Mike. I'm our head of solutions marketing, and I'm here with Destiny. Destiny, what's going on?
Hey everyone, I am for the first time doing a webinar with a light in my face, so I want to apologize in advance if you see me squinting. It is a very dark and rainy day here in Houston, Texas, so we are working with the tools that we have. But for those of you that haven't met me yet, I'm a marketing manager here at Snappy Kraken, and I'm very excited for this topic because I used to work on site in a firm in Houston, so events are definitely something I have a lot of experience in, and I want to invite you all to open up the question forum. Feel free to ask me questions as we move throughout. And I would like to start this call off by asking everyone here how many events you're doing a year. Do you have a yearly event? Do you do a couple a quarter? Do you do webinars? Do you do seminars? Please drop it in the chat. We want to kind of have an idea of who we're speaking to. Is this going to be a new add-on to your company, or is this something that you're looking to improve on? Mike, let me know if anybody drops in there.
Okay, so Laura says 3 to 4 events. Steven's got
Awesome.
4 events. Yeah, and feel free to drop too if it's a client or a prospect focused event. It'd be interesting to understand. Brooks 3 to 4. Sean 4 events is the new goal. Christine 70 dinner workshops. Wow, that is
Oh my
awesome.
goodness.
That's
70.
70 dinner workshops, 5 to 10 client events. That's fantastic. Tracy 4 to 6 events, adding webinars this year. That's really cool. Yeah, kind of a great way to scale your events and go digital. Laura, ours have been client, but with the idea that they could bring guests and prospects, which is awesome. We're going to be talking about that a little bit. So yeah, some people prospect focused, some client appreciation. Annette is also in Houston. Used to do 5 to 6 events with her old firm. None so far with the new firm. Sweet. A lot
Very
of,
cool.
lot of good, lot of good answers there.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so that's awesome. That is going to make this very valuable then because we are going to get into it. For those of you that are doing events and how to make the most of those, that's primarily what the focus is. If you've never done an event, or and you didn't want to drop that in, that's okay because you can still learn something today. But we are going to talk about how the event is not the end all be all, but it should be a midpoint, and even a starting point for a conversation. So let's jump in. So, what we're going to focus on is how to reshape the way that you're viewing events. Events should not be the finish line. We're going to look at how to create a larger growth system and really amplify that prospecting ability, or even just reconnecting with existing clients and getting them maybe into new product areas. So, many advisors might treat these events like isolated campaigns. You do a lot of work getting them up and running and the invites out. And then once it's over, you take a sigh of relief and you move on. But that is not the right way to look at events. They should be a portion of your overall marketing process. So, we're gonna get into this fact. I really wish I put it on the other slide, but 75% of exhibition leads are never followed up with after an event. That's a huge area for improvement in prospecting, but also just re-engaging existing clients. So there are different ways that you can do this. I'm sorry. But this is where you really want to focus on continuing the conversation after the event. You want to make sure that you have follow-up in place before the door even opens, and it needs to be segmented based off of the experience of that individual as well. For example, after this call, you will all receive a follow-up email from Snappy Kraken, whether you attended or registered and didn't attend. The language will be different based on whether you were present for this call or not, and you will get a copy of this webinar. But you will go through a little bit of a life cycle. Maybe we'll keep track of the fact that you were interested in events, and if we do something else that corresponds with it, we'll be reconnecting with you. So you need to start implementing those touch points and measures in your own marketing aspects. And another example could be I know I have this group of clients that have young children. So maybe I'll work with a wholesaler that focuses on 504 plans and we'll do a luncheon for them. So you do that luncheon and then you have another, opportunity where you learn about a college fund. So that might be another touch point tool where you can put them on an email list and you start to nurture that lead a little bit more. And that's especially relevant when you're prospecting, when you have that opportunity to meet someone's friend at one of those client events and you get to know them and you hear some of their pain points or what they're interested in investing or what their long-term goals are, you can start to segment your messaging around that. And events are a big part of it. Events are obviously an opportunity to get to know someone, and I really think we need to reframe it as the start of the conversation versus how it's the finish line. Mike, did you unmute because you have something you'd like to add?
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good point. It's so easy to run an event, maybe send one email after, and if people take action, great. And I know a lot of people get success from events, even just doing that, right? We'll look at some data in a few slides that kind of shows this, right? You can still have a successful event presence with a smaller amount of follow-up, but it can be so much more successful, right? There's a reason they say the fortune is in the follow-up, is driving that long-term conversation is key. And I like what you're talking too about, right? These different types of events, right? If you have that um, 504, right? Is that the education fund? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
That type of focused event, right? Being able to send some specific content that relates to that, where people can dig into it a little bit more. It's educational, it adds value. And tying your follow-up to the event is really powerful, right?
Yeah. And it builds trust too.
Yeah, exactly. It's a huge trust builder, and um, you know, we're all experts on these things. Like we go to the event, we talk about it, but sometimes people coming, they're not necessarily, they're kind of drinking from the fire hose during the event, and giving them some nice content afterwards kind of gives them the ability to absorb some of that, right? They maybe had a few takeaways they took from the event, but you can continue that conversation afterwards. So the conversation you start during the event can really continue afterwards, I think is the point.
Yeah, and you should start thinking about it in terms of before, during, and after for each event. I know as someone that has been very involved with event planning, sometimes it's really easy to focus on just filling up that room and making sure all the details are there, especially if it's one of the larger events where you have a speaker flying in and you've got catering and you've got decorations and the list goes on and on. It is so easy to think that that's the finish line, but that really needs to be the midpoint. That needs to be the during focus. So you need to have your before, your messaging lined up, your during, and your after. And we'll get into timeline in a little bit, how that can be a little bit, more achievable. But each phase has a different job. The before is to generate interest. It's to get those registrations. It's to get feet in the door. It is to have the client have enough time to introduce their friend and say, hey, my firm is hosting this kid-friendly baseball event in a month or so. They said I could bring a plus one and their kids, there's no limit. Do you guys want to come? What a great opportunity. But if do too close of an invite, you're not going to have that time to reach out if prospecting is the goal. Um, before you want to generate that interest and get those registrations, during is delivering that value and engaging with the clients. And that should be so on the nose. This should be the easiest part of your job. Advisors, you guys are salespeople. You know how to talk, you know how to work a room, you know how to connect with people. This should be the best, most fun aspect of the event. This is where you can kind of celebrate all of the work that you put in to get people in that room or to register for that webinar. But this is where you're creating those relationships and logging notes, taking notes either, if it's a webinar, it should be a little bit easier to segment interest because they registered for that particular webinar. But if it's someone that you're meeting in person, maybe you need to put a note down on your phone as to what their interest is. Or if they're in our CRM, you can put a note. You can add them to a specific list. They said, hey, yeah, I'm really interested in late term retirement planning. Well, you have a segment for that. So you add them to that list. But that's where you're going to really hone in on what that specific interest is and start to connect with that client. The after, this is where you use that information to follow up to nurture and to move them to whatever that next step is. And that next step is going to be dependent on both their goal and your goal. Is your goal to prospect and to add new clients? Well, then obviously you want to connect them with an area of your expertise, and now you're sharing that expertise with them. Um, Mike, do you have anything to add before I move to the next slide?
I don't think so. Angela did drop what I think is a really cool comment in the chat
Okay.
though. So she said, as we implement, it's about ROM, return on the moment, not ROI. Which is so true. It's not just about, right, how many clients can we get from this? It is obviously we're investing in these events. We want them to be growth drivers for us, but we're creating this value in the moment. We're building relationships and continuing that, right? How do we continue that beyond just this moment that we had in the event so it doesn't just disappear? It's this ongoing experience that we can build on. So I think that's a cool way to think about it.
I like that. Yeah, I've not heard that acronym before, but now I'm going to add it to my repertoire. Okay, let's jump into the next slide. So, choosing the right topic, relevance matters more than novelty. It's nice to have an event, but it'd be better to have one that your clients care about and that makes sense for your overall objectives and goals. Just having an event to have an event for the sake of an event, well, you might be wasting your time too. What you want to do is choose a topic that connects to something the audience cares about right now. And your audience could vary. That could be your A plus clients. That could be the clients with kids. It could be your late retirement clients. It could be those that are only doing 401k investments, but you're trying to get them to branch out. Or it could be a, market update where it is firm wide, but knowing what's going to be relevant to them and then kind of niching down on it. So an example could be one like right before the election last year. I did a webinar with Jennifer Flitton, who is the head of U.S. government affairs at Invesco. And we did a webinar that was client-based, but it was for the entire firm. And what we had her talk about was people care about elections, markets don't, because, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's always uncertainty around elections, but I think this last year was there was a lot of buzz on our phone lines in the office. So we were trying to provide value. We were trying to give our clients an opportunity to have a speaking point. But it ended up being a prospecting event unintentionally because what was, I guess it was just kind of a good thing, but clients felt informed and knowledgeable and started to share the replay. They started to share the replay with their friends and their family and on social, and it ultimately helped our firm grow when our goal was to provide relevant, timely, specific content to our existing audience. So enjoyable is on here. I'm not sure I'd categorize that particular webinar topic as enjoyable, but it was really cool because she was in Washington when she was talking to us. So that was pretty neat. But there are a lot of different ways that you could specify the topic. And again, I know there are quite a few firms that might do like one big yearly client appreciation event. Maybe it's your holiday party at the end of the year, and this is your, singular touch point that you have with your clients. That's good too, but it is nice if you are able to segment and have something that is more relevance building, that's educational even. And your clients aren't going to be able to attend every event, but it is going to give them an opportunity to know that you are a trusted resource and you're providing them value, whether it be a fun event or an educational topic. All right, Mike, before I move on, any comments?
Yeah, I think it's a good example. It's not. I think enjoyable is good, and it's great to have a good mix of your events, right? You want some fun events, but it sounds like that event just was really valuable, right? And driving value is huge. It's such a big trust builder. How we build relationships, and the point of all of this marketing is to create value.
Yeah, now let's get into promotion. So we're going to talk about how it starts before the first invite goes out. And it's ideal to have a clear promise as to what someone will learn or gain from the event. So for that particular event, we advertised that she's going to explore about why people care deeply about elections when financial markets often remain indifferent to the change in administration. So that was ideally trying to provide some peace and certainty in uncertain times, but it was also going to provide them with a non-bias opportunity to learn more. Now, another way this could be is, how many or let's see, I'm trying to think of another good example. Like planning for your future today, or starting your college education fund today will make tomorrow easier. Something that is going to resonate with your audience and making sure that you segment to that audience that aligns with the topic as well. You want to use multiple touch points. You don't want to send out one email. If you send out one email to all of your clients, well, maybe you'll get a few people that register or actually show up for the event if it means anything to them, or maybe they're bored. I'm sure if you've had a few events throughout the year, you know you have your frequent flyers, the clients that come to everything, even if it doesn't pertain to them, they just want the free food and to hang out, which we love those. They're great room fillers. But maybe they're not the best client for a prospecting event because they never bring a friend. So you want to be able to send multiple touch points so that you give people ample opportunity to attend or invite a friend. You want to use email, social media. You could do a phone call. Everybody loves a phone call from their advisor. Personal outreach, or again, you could even go old school and do some direct mailers. I know there's quite a few of you that still do those. It's classic in the world of financial advising to send out at least a holiday card, right? If not a birthday card. But these are all different ways that you can have that opportunity to connect. And we'll get into it a little bit later. Mike is going to share with you one of the tools that we have here at Snappy. And I know we have some clients on here that use our campaigns tool, but it does include email, social, and it builds that campaign out. So we'll get into that a little bit later, but it does already provide multiple touch points, which are so essential. Many of you may have noticed you received several emails from us before you registered. So we're really grateful that you guys did join us today. And Mike, before I move on, is there anything you wanted to add here on multiple touch points?
No, I think it's great. It's yeah, super important. One email, even if you just look at typical open rates on an email, not everybody's going to see it. People don't always have time. A lot of times, I mean, I know I've gotten an email. I'm like, oh man, I need to remember to do this. And then there's so much going on in life, you kind of forget. So it's always good to have multiple touch points there, just as a reminder for people, because it's easy to forget. They have everything going on in their lives. So I wouldn't worry about bothering people. You certainly don't want to be like mailing every single day for, weeks in advance, but at least a few emails so that they get multiple touch points is super important.
Yeah, like a good rhythm might be an announcement, a reminder, last chance, day before, and then day of, if that's a webinar, for example. Um, but we'll jump into where momentum gets lost. So this is the gap that might weaken events. It could happen before, during, or after. If the topic is really vague, if you started promoting a week before the event, if it's late promotion, if you have inconsistent reminders, maybe it's really far out. You do a quarterly event and you started your Q2 mid Q1, but then you didn't send another until the week up. Unclear follow-up. So an occasional touch point here and there, or if someone responds and asks a question, but you don't get back, that would just potentially discourage someone from attending or forget about the event. Um, Having attendees and no-shows receive the same messaging, this is a big no-no. There are a lot of automatic tools that provide follow-up emails, but they don't vary in messaging. So it's important that you update that. An example would be you today on this call listening now. If you received an email that said, sorry you couldn't attend the webinar, you'd immediately be confused. You wouldn't feel important. You'd think I was on the webinar, and some of you might even reply to it letting us know. Vice versa is the same. So for those that didn't attend, if they received one that said, hey, thanks for joining today, they might be confused. What webinar? I didn't join a call. What is this? And instead of having a real connection with whomever you're speaking with. So making sure that you're updating that messaging based on who didn't come, who could come, Whether that's an in-person event as well. You know, if you had someone that RSVP'd for an in-person event and couldn't show up but didn't relay that to you, I know in the firm that I worked in, it was very common that if a client couldn't attend an event that previously could, they directly communicate that with their advisor. But there are some that don't. And in the event that that happens, you want to make sure that you notice their absence because that's going to make the client feel really valued at your firm too, and possibly even feel more obligated to go to the next event. You know, oh, I missed that last one. So and so called me and checked in on me. I better make this one. So, really building those relationships. I mean, that's part of that nurture process. Um, Most advisors view the hardest part of hosting the event, but really and truly, the easiest wins happen around it. That's that before and after, making sure that you're connecting throughout the process. So, let's talk about follow up that keeps working. It should be planned before the event happens. You should have your communication outlined. You shouldn't post on social media or your website and say, we're doing this event, but you haven't created a single invitation for it, whether that be a print invitation or a virtual one. You should have your messaging lined up from the beginning. Example back to us today, the follow-up email that you will receive has been written. It was written last week. So it's not something that we would do last minute, and it's nothing, or it's not something you should do last minute either. This should be a part of your overarching strategy. And ideally, if you're going to host an event and you have lined up your communication all around that event, you should be thinking, what's next for this client? Okay, we did a prospecting event. We had 16 new people join us, and we sent them a follow-up email. Hey, thanks so much for coming. We really enjoyed meeting you. Let us know if you want to book. And then nothing. That's not good. So, what you're going to do instead is think about how you can continue to engage them. 16 prospects. You talked about an upcoming event, a webinar 2 weeks later. So maybe you already have a webinar. You got your webinar 2 weeks later. You're going to make sure that those prospects know about that webinar coming up. And you're going to update the messaging that lets them know they're not clients. I know you're excited about the opportunity to update your financial future, and you came to X event. I met you. It was so lovely. As I discussed, we have this webinar in 2 weeks. I'd love to have you join if you're interested, and then post-webinar follow-up, you see. So it kind of gets them in this larger circle process of nurture. So let's see. Okay, so when you have an attendee, thanks for joining. Here are takeaways. No shows. Sorry we missed you. Here's the replay. And then prospect. Would you like to talk about how this applies to your plan? So that's kind of the blanket there between those three. Mike, before I move on to this next slide, any comments?
No, that's great.
Very, very good ad. Okay. So let's talk about not letting the conversation go cold. The event gives you momentum. People leave, they're excited, they enjoyed meeting you. Nurture helps you keep that feeling going. Post-event nurture reinforces time, like Mike talked about earlier. It's really about that relationship building. Or what was it? ROM. I really like that. So not everyone is ready for a meeting right away. Some people are nervous or, slow adapters. I think it's called laggers. They don't get the new iPhone when it comes out. They wait to see if it has any bugs. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to become your client one day. They are getting to know you and they're a little slower to warm up. So you definitely don't want to go cold on them. Staying visible helps keep you, the advisor, at top of mind. And staying visible comes in a lot of different ways. It comes through, again, email communication, posting on social media, having another event and inviting them, getting that second in-person touch point, or webinar opportunity where you are the trusted resource, or providing them a trusted resource to use and learn from. So an example could be after a retirement workshop, you follow up with some Social Security content, income planning tips, tax planning considerations, and then you reinvite them for a consultation. So you've put them through an opportunity for real education. You've provided them with tools and resources, and then you're like, yeah, and I'm available if you want to meet with me. Here's my calendar link. It's a little softer and it helps keep things warm. Mike, I noticed you unmuted. I'm guessing you have something.
Yeah, no, I think just wanted to make sure as we're talking about follow-up, The segmentation piece where we're talking about differentiating between like people who attended, people who didn't attend the webinar, different message for clients versus prospects. You don't necessarily have to keep that thread going the whole way, right? So I think right after the event, having that type of segmented follow-up is great because it connects their actual experience to the event you just had. But then when we're talking about these longer term nurtures, you don't have to keep doing that, right? You're not necessarily referencing that event even in the content anymore. If you had this, retirement planning event, sending retirement based content to that entire group that just creates value, stays in front of them, has some educational, some enjoyable content for them to consume with those calls to action that Destiny's talking about, right? That are built into that campaign. And that's kind of how we build campaigns in Snappy Kraken as well, right? Like our prospect nurturing campaigns are built with that in mind. It's on a specific topic so that you can send it to a relevant audience. It's a series of emails sharing a piece of content with some light calls to action built in at the end so that everybody gets value from it. And then the people who are ready have these avenues that they can easily kind of take the next step, right? If they want to book a call, if they want to request a call back from you or whatever that is. So it never feels like super in your face, like book now, book now. It's just creating that opportunity for them to take the next step.
Yeah, Mike is 100% right. And I apologize if I was alluding to otherwise always segmenting after they didn't. No, Mike is absolutely right. Just after that first touch point, like he said, to acknowledge the relationship and their experience. But yeah, I really like what you just said about, oh man, I liked the word you used, Mike, but now I've forgotten it. We'll circle back. I'm sure it'll come back to me. Um, what did you just say? You said something that was
I don't
so
know.
good.
There's a bunch of words in there, so it's hard for
I
me to know
know.
which one. But Angela just dropped another cool comment. There's like a lot of gold in this chat today, which is
I'm
awesome.
so sad I can't see it. Okay.
Thank you guys for participating. But think of events as a rock in a stream. Rocks don't make the water; they direct the flow of the stream. The stream is your client relationship, right? It's
Ooh,
just kind of a cool visual way to think about it. Um, I like that.
that is cool. And I remembered what you said, when they're ready. That's what I
Hmm.
heard you say, and I liked that a lot. That goes back to making sure that you don't let leads go cold because it's when they're ready. It
Yeah,
kind of plays on that lagger idea that not jumping on the first new iPhone, but it's just when they're ready. I like that a lot, Mike. I'm glad we had that moment to visualize a stream so I could come back to what you said. Um,
perfect.
okay. And Mike, I'm gonna let you take over here.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of data on the power of follow-up. I think everybody kind of knows follow-up is valuable, but I think this data in particular is kind of cool to look at. This is event specific, right? So you take 100 event leads, short-term follow-up, one or two messages sent. Um, it can still be successful, right? 10 appointments, five clients close at a 50% close. But a longer term nurture is driving a lot more value for your firm, right? So you are seeing 50% more ready sales, ready leads, 20 to 30% higher close rates, 33% lower costs. So the your ability to drive growth, to create more value through these events is much higher. A long-term nurture for this, comparison between a short-term follow-up versus a long-term nurture for those 100 event leads, you're looking at 15 appointments and 10 clients, right? So you're getting more appointments by following up longer, creating more value, continuing that conversation, continuing the return on the moment, right? And as a result, you are getting more appointments, 15 appointments, and you have a higher close rate, right? 10 clients, 70% close rate versus 50% close rate because there's more trust built, right? So this is kind of a combination of that ROI. You're getting the ROI, but you're getting the ROI by creating a better ROM, right? Return on the moment, more trust, more relationship, and more value.
I love that. More ROI on the ROM.
Yeah.
We need to
How
make it
many
super
acronyms can we get in here? But I think it's important. The ROI is an end result, and it is one that we care about. But we do it by creating more value.
Yeah, I mean, and everybody here on this call that's planned an event knows how much work goes into it. It takes a lot of your time, and if you're an advisor planning your events, your time is already stretched then. So it is important that you're tracking the results and paying attention to the effort that you're putting in so that you can adjust, whether that be your expectation or your strategy. Um, but let's jump in. So we're going to talk about something that is fun. We're going to talk about 4 ideas to use this year. It sounds like some of you are probably using these already. These are four that I had on my calendar every year at the firm that I was at. We, of course, had many, many events. We were an event-focused, very heavy firm, but these are four different events that I think every advisor should incorporate. Having a market update event that could be a yearly event, or you could do this as your quarterly event and structure it based on what fits better in your firm, whether that's virtual because you have a spread out market, or if you are able to have people join in person, it could be a cocktail hour marketing update. Retirement planning workshop. This one is great. Everybody works in retirement when it comes to financial advising. So, this is one that everybody needs to know because ideally we all get the opportunity to retire. A client appreciation event. This one's fun to do around the holidays. It's normally an easier time, but you can also do it in midsummer. If you have a younger group of clients, and they have kids, it's really fun to do some kind of a kid event, or tax planning check-in. So this is one that you want to start before the new tax year begins. So this is one that you could start working on now if it's not one you're already planning. Now we're going to break it down. We're going to get in here. This is definitely one I would love for those of you listening in to chime in and tell me about your events, ask questions. Right now, I'm going to just give you a couple different ideas on how to make these events work. I'm open for questions, so if you want to make this more of a conversation, I'm happy to. But market update events. These help prospects and clients understand what current conditions are for their plan. Um, Obviously, market update event is something that you could host, but many of you have relationships with wholesalers, and it is advantageous to have a larger speaker come in. I think one year we had some people from LPL research team. We had the CEO of Crossmark. Sometimes bigger names excite clients. Again, if you work with a wholesale group, ask your wholesaler, hey, I want somebody from your research team. Maybe you want somebody from Invesco to come down. And if it's an in-person or a webinar, sometimes they're even more inclined to do that. But if you start to have those opportunities, definitely take them. It builds a lot of credibility for your group. And again, there are different ways you could do it. You could do this market update event either in, a high stress market environment where you're trying to provide ease to your clients. So it could be kind of not necessarily an emergency, but something that isn't always on the schedule. It could be yearly. The firm I worked in, we did them every January. It was a great time because you kind of got over the holiday hump. People weren't really going on vacation because it's cold. So it was something to do. And it was always very highly attended. We'd have, 200 or 300 people show up. So it was a really fun event. Or you could do a quarterly market update where, like I said, you could have it a little bit smaller. Maybe it's more prospect focused. So you open it up to a larger audience, or you keep it niche and you have your A plus clients attend, and you can allow your A plus clients to have, a plus one if you want. So there are different ways to do it. I think there's like two or three other listed on here, which I'm sure you've already read. But Mike, before I move on, has anybody added to the chat about a market update?
Not yet. I'll chime in if we get
Okay.
some event ideas in here.
Okay, retirement planning workshops. This could be a really large thing where you rent out a movie theater and you have, your whole firm come out. All your clients are welcome to join, and then, you have somebody do a 30-minute and then it's a movie. And so it could be something like that, or it could be a little bit more relaxed. It could be a Thursday luncheon and you have people come in, or it could be a coffee and go. But having these throughout the year are really beneficial. Everybody wants to retire. This one's a pretty easy one, and you can have more niche topics that surround this overarching goal. 5 decisions to make before you retire. what to know before you claim your Social Security. You just claimed your Security. Now what? Something that is exciting. Like we said, we want to drive interest, we want to build trust, and we want to be able to nurture that lead post. So, in whichever format that you're hosting this, this is a guaranteed winner. This is something that everybody is interested in. Sorry, Mike, I see you unmuted.
No, I think I was already unmuted. Keep
Oh
going.
no. This is something that is a guaranteed winner. Maybe it might be a smaller attendance pool, dependent on your age group, of clients, but that's something that you would always get at least a couple people for. I mean, if it's an in-person on a Thursday afternoon, it might not be the best time to host it. But if you're doing a dinner or if you're doing, a webinar, you might have a larger attendance pool and an opportunity to discuss different retirement opportunities. So, client appreciation event. This is by far the most fun, always. And always, always the most regulated too. FINRA always wants to make sure you're not spending money on your clients. This is when you're definitely going to connect with your wholesalers, right? But there are so many cool things you can do for client appreciation events. And while you're doing it, you can tie in other education formats. So, like I had mentioned earlier, the renting out the movie theater one, that was always a really fun one. And it was an opportunity to involve kids. If we could find like a new release kid movie coming out, rent the theater, and then do a 30-minute presentation that either was super relevant to the parents and where they're at in their life cycle or life stage, or for the kids, whether it be, getting them started for next generation investing or focused on client or college planning. But of course, you could do the holiday party, volunteer opportunity. That one's really fun too. It could be if there's a 5K or 10K in your area. I know one thing we did was the minor league baseball team out here in Houston. I can never remember the name of them. Sugarland Space Cowboys. The Sugarland Space Cowboys has a giant stadium that is super kid friendly and it has baseball and it also has playgrounds and all kinds of things. So this was actually a really great prospecting event because it was open to the kids and it was in the dead of summer. So that could be another client appreciation opportunity. But all of these listed here tie back to what's your overall objective? Like, are you doing a prospecting event? Are you wanting to go over the top and do a client appreciation event for your A++ clients? Um, Dependent on what your client focus is and the area that you live in, that should dictate what type of client appreciation event you have. Maybe you're in Southern California and there is an amazing sound meditation place. No one in your firm has done it. What a fun, weird bonding experience for you guys. You guys can all try sound meditation for the first time. That is a real networking event that I went to once, and I thought this is so bizarre. And it created this really amazing conversation space because everyone hadn't done it before, and it was kind of a little nervous. You're like, I don't really know what I'm supposed to do here. So it puts everyone on a level playing field. But client appreciation events are an opportunity to bond with your clients, and to prospect. And again, I know we get into a little bit of a hairy area when you do a client appreciation event. It kind of turns into a prospecting as far as funding goes post with wholesalers and FINRA, but it is still absolutely worth that extra paperwork to get it done because client appreciation events often turn into some of the best tools for word of mouth advertising. Mike, did you unmute this time or did I
I think I've just
imagine?
been unmuted the whole time, but no, I like
Okay.
this idea. And I think the
Okay.
kind of taking a look at what's available locally, right? There's like kind of standard events that are great to do, but some of the more creative ones can be really fun to go to. Yeah, the sound meditation is super interesting. I've actually been to one of those as well. And yeah, it's just unique and different. The local movie theater is a great one too. We actually went to one of those recently. They showed Toy Story. It was actually a local realtor rented out the movie theater. And yeah, we brought our kids, so many kids there. They loved it. And then the parents, like it's a pretty cool movie theater. It's like an old movie theater in town, and they have beers and stuff like that and food. So, they kind of gave everybody drink tickets when they came in. So parents had a blast, kind of seeing each other, hanging out. It was really a fun experience. And the realtors, they didn't spend a huge amount of time. They did like a quick, like kind of 10-minute thing at the beginning. It was a really fun event, made a great impression on a ton of people. Cynthia said, or no, sorry, Joseph said, do you have a lead for a sound meditation or a website perhaps? So
Are you in
I think it'd probably be
Houston? I got,
locally based.
wait, where are you located?
Yeah, so if you're in Houston, Destiny's got a
I
sound
do.
meditation contact for you. But if not, yeah, I would kind of look around locally. Yeah, okay, Joseph's in LA. I would
Okay.
guess
There's probably a lot of them in LA.
a lot of them in LA, I would think. Yeah, so do it, kind of looking locally. Should be able to find something.
Yeah, so on this note, if Eventbrite is this website that
Mm,
is everywhere. If you go on there and you just type in things near me, what you're really going to do is learn about different event types that you could potentially do with your clients. This boat picture here is, I've lived in Houston my entire life, and I did not know you could do a historic Houston Channel tour on a boat until one of my advisors did a wine night, wine and cheese night on the boat. It's a historic tour and it was like a hit. He did it with his A+ clients. I helped him do the messaging for it, and I wished I had been invited on the boat because I wanted to see what that was like. But that was something I didn't know, and I grew up here. But if you check out just like events near me, try to find something I think a little more niche too, because not that a wine tasting isn't fun. It just might be a little overdone. You want to try to find something that is more unique, but again, on brand. If you would never do pickleball, and you're not sporty and you don't watch sports, then maybe not a pickleball event for you and your clients. Maybe you are more of someone that enjoys the arts, so you get a couple Broadway seat tickets to the theater near you, and that's what you do with your clients. So you do want to try to find a client appreciation event that aligns with who you are on brand, but maybe something a little different, a little less, let's all have a cocktail, and it might be more memorable or at least a speaking point, and that kind of helps that word of mouth. I mean, I think it sounds like when Mike sells his house, he's going to use that realtor that rented the movie theater.
for sure. Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
they've done a couple of cool events like that. So they're definitely standing out to me because I've actually been to multiple of their events now. So yeah.
have you? Okay.
Yeah.
Mike's a frequent flyer. He's going
Our
back
kids,
too.
our kids go to the same school, so there's also that connection.
And this is very similar. Realtors and advisors are many advisors are similar in that way where they're independent and they have to do the work of creating their own community or letting the community know about them. So I think it's very much in the same vein. That's a really good example.
I will mention one other cool thing that they did. I just remembered now. They did talk briefly, but they actually had, I think they have some marketing interns who are, in college but getting some experience, but they're really good with their phones. And so they had these interns create a like short movie about the realtor office. So there's like five people that work there or whatever, and they created this fun like 3-minute movie to watch before Toy Story, and they showed it live, and it's just obviously this is not a high production thing. It was obviously filmed on a cell phone. It had kind of corny things happening, but it was funny, and it kind of added a lot of character for this firm, right? It helped them just kind of stand out, create an impression on everybody without just saying, "Hey, let us sell your house." It was kind of showed the different people that work there, gave a little bit of their personality, and it was a fun way to stand out. So I think thinking through that too, of like when you have this event, what's the impression that you want to make? What do you want to leave people with? And that was a really creative way to kind of approach that because it tied in with the we're all watching Toy Story, and then we watched this short little movie about the office, which is cool.
Awesome. All right, we're jumping into the last one. This is the other one that is a foolproof event, a tax planning check-in. There are a million and one ways that you could run this. It could be a webinar, it could be in person, it could be a grab and go, it could be a series, even. but there are so many different ways to do these. Fall is the natural time for year-end planning conversations, and it can create a lot of urgency before the December 31st deadline. Some great topics to include on this could be charitable giving, Roth conversions, year-end tax questions. It could be an open opportunity for them to book a one-on-one with you so that you guys can go over all of those. You could even partner with CPAs and wholesalers that could add credibility and reach. I know it's so hard to snag a CPA when it gets closer to tax time for a webinar. So if you have a relationship, an existing relationship, try to get on their calendar now so that they can participate as a speaker, whether it be for an in-person event, it could be a dinner, again. It could be a multi-touch point on this where you film the in-person and then showcase it as a post webinar or a video to share with clients for those that couldn't attend or for those that live out of state or further away that just wouldn't be able to make it in. But this is such a good value add. This one I have always found to be really easy to promote. Messaging surrounding it also easy because it is standard. It doesn't change that much unless there's a big tax update that everyone needs to know about. It is pretty easy to launch this one and to keep it as a routine and regular part of your yearly event planning. And everybody pays taxes just like everybody retires. So everybody does like this topic or can at least share it with someone. So it could also be a prospecting tool. Mike, before I move on, do you have any comments on tax planning?
Yeah, well, I think this is a good one. We have a lot of tax related content on Snappy Kraken. It is always incredibly high performing because this is a really important topic for everybody. We all pay taxes, and we care about that. So Sean did have a question. He's got two questions actually, and we're gonna definitely cover one of them shortly. But one related to this: what month is best for tax planning check-in?
I would say December or February actually. So you could start in December getting people updated and ready so that they are prepared for that December 31st deadline. Or you could start for the earlier following year in February. You could also do it end of April when taxes are over. There are some people that, because everybody knows the tax season actually starts the day after taxes are due. So you could do an end of April tax event, but I personally found February was a good time. February doesn't seem to have a lot of holidays outside of Valentine's Day. There's not a lot of people traveling around February, so if you're going to do something in person, that one's good. If you're going to do something virtual, you could do it as early as end of April. A lot of people that might have just paid their taxes are upset about how much they paid in their taxes and would love to know how to avoid paying that much next year. So you could say start now. But that's segmenting your audience. That's knowing your audience a little bit too. There are some people that do an extension every year, so those might be the ones that are interested in joining around the December timeline because they know they have more time anyway. They're going to file an extension. Um, but yeah, I would suggest end of April, February, or early December before the holiday parties start.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's also when that kind of aligns with our recommendations on when to launch these tax focused campaigns, which is also, the same time that it'd be good to run this type of event and then maybe launch that content afterwards as a follow-up, which we'll be
Yeah.
talking about soon. Sean did have one more question that I think we could speak to right now as well, which is, can you speak to live seminars versus webinars as far as effectiveness? So I know a lot of advisors do live seminars, webinars. Obviously, we're on a webinar right now, so that's what this is. I'm interested in your thoughts on this, Destiny. I think obviously this applies a little bit more to prospecting. We're not going to do a client appreciation webinar because it doesn't have that same level of experience as an in-person event. I would say everything that we are talking about becomes critically important when you're talking about webinars, right? So live seminar, you're in person, you're shaking hands, you're building that relationship in that moment, and that can be really impactful. And so it's probably a little bit easier to get away without having really amazing follow-up. Still really important, and we still really want you to do that. But yeah, you do have that in-person moment. With a webinar, it's a little bit different. I think it's absolutely critical to right having promotions, as we were talking about that, right, multi-point touch point to get people registered for the webinar. Even like an attendance sequence, like making sure you're trying to maximize attendance for that webinar and reminding people that they signed up. Sending out a calendar invite, different things like that can help. And then the follow-up is really important because you don't have that in person, handshake, be in the same room. So yeah, it becomes really, really critical. So I would say benefits though, webinars are very scalable, right? In-person event, you're kind of, number one, they're more expensive, right? You have to rent out the space, whatever that looks like. There's a limit to the number of people that you can have in the room. Webinars, you can really scale up, so you can, um, you know, kind of sky's the limit on whether or not you want to limit the number of people in a webinar. But they're very scalable for sure, which is a huge benefit. They're less expensive to run. You can run more of them. There's some things you can do to automate them. So I think there's a lot of reasons to explore them and check them out. But everything that we're talking about on this webinar becomes critically important when you do a webinar. What do you think, Destiny?
Can you repeat their question one more time? I think I'm in full agreement with you, and I'm trying to see if I can even add to it. So, would you mind repeating their question one more time?
Yeah, so it's just can you speak to live seminars, right? Like an in-person seminar versus webinars as far as
Okay.
effectiveness?
Okay. Yeah, I think goal is very important. We're gonna send out an event planning checklist after this call, and on it, it's gonna like the very first thing is like, what's your goal? So as you were talking, it sort of transitioned me back to 2020 when the world went to remote. Webinars were not as well attended, and where I worked, we didn't do them at all. We did in-person networking events. That was our primary driver for client prospecting. And so when the world went remote, figure out how to do it. One of the big goals of the company that I worked at was to expand. So it was Houston based only, and they wanted to expand into the other major metros, Dallas, San Antonio, and Austin. And when we started to do the webinars, we started to get people that attended from those regions. Eventually, we expanded out of the state over a 2 year time period. So it depends on your objective. I wouldn't say webinars are easier than in-person events. They're certainly cheaper, but they're not easier. I mean, you're still ideally, if you're doing an event right, preparing language before, during, and after for the event. And you're doing the same thing when you're doing a webinar. You're still participating in that strategy aspect of it. Um, so yeah, I mean, I fully agree with Mike, and I just can only add, it depends on what your goal is. If you're looking to do prospecting, I would say webinars are a little easier sometimes. But I don't think they should be the only thing as an advisor. As an advisor, I do think you need to have those in-person events and then have the follow-up opportunity of online. Those in-person events, like he said, that's where you're connecting, where you have that handshake and you talk to someone, and that's the client that goes, they're at work and they're talking to their buddy, and their buddy says, yeah, I'm never going to retire, and they're like, you know what, you should talk to my financial advisor. That's that connection. That's from the marketing event. Maybe less so from the webinar, but I think they're both good. I personally think they're almost equal work. The only absence there is the financial commitment. I think, like Mike said, it's more expensive. But ideally, you have a wholesaler sponsoring those events, so it shouldn't be too expensive out of your bottom line budget or your firm's budget. Great question, though. Did we answer it? If I hope we did. I hope you were just asking kind of what our opinion was between the two.
I think the one other thing worth noting too is a lot of the events we're talking about, we're coming up with this cool experience, and that's a big driver for like why to attend the event, right? So this movie theater, sound bath, whatever other unique idea you come up with, it's a cool experience. And with a webinar, you really have to have a more specific, probably value driven and educational topic. Like what's the reason why they're going to come? And it can't be vague. It has to be specific. It should be tied to their interests. So that piece of it becomes a little bit more important as well, in
Okay,
terms of
Mike, wait,
the message.
I have one caveat on that. I had a LPL corporate advisor that worked at my office and it was in Houston, Texas, but she had all of her clients in California. So she did do client appreciation events virtually and she would, we actually have a blog on this. Maybe we'll include the blog and follow up with for you guys so you guys can see because I tagged the company that she used to use. But they would send kits. So for Mother's Day, she would send all of her, mother clients the ability to make their own bouquet with a florist on a Zoom call. So it was like her touch point. She sent out like charcuterie boards, and she would have, like 401k planning, and they'd eat the charcuterie boards together on the calls. So you can still do some fun on the Zoom call. You're not totally restricted. But it is still, you're still spending money because it's expensive to mail out all of that.
That's a cool idea, yeah, because you're kind of then bringing some of that in-person experience element to the webinar, which it's a great creative
Yeah.
idea. So I like that.
Snappy Kraken will not be providing charcuterie boards in the near future. We don't have that as an opportunity yet. Maybe one day. Okay, so let's talk about building an event calendar. And I see we're actually running so tight on time. Oh no, I might have been too chatty. I'm so sorry, everyone. I'm gonna speed through and please feel free to stop me or hop off if you need to. We are gonna record this call so you guys can get a copy at the end if we do go over time. But every event should have a role. We should start by asking who's it for and what does it support? Is this prospects? Is it clients? Is it referral partners? Is it A-list? And then you want to connect what you're going to do after to the event. That is key. That is important. Otherwise, you're just having a party, which you can do at home without having to involve your clients. The event should be supporting the next campaign. Mike had a really good example. We have a lot of tax planning content available, so that would be an easy opportunity to put them in a nurture campaign. You wouldn't even have to do a ton of building. You would be able to use existing tools and update them, if you need it to be more relevant to the language that maybe you use. But a client appreciation event could support referrals. A retirement workshop could support prospecting. Tax planning could support year end and appointment setting. So those are just a couple different events and how they might correspond with an overarching goal. So ask yourself, what is the goal? And again, we're going to send you guys an event planning checklist. It starts there and you can go through it and maybe give a little more clarity or incorporate it with your existing journey now for building. How many slides do we have left? Okay, we have 3 or 4 more slides. We might have talked about this before the event, promotions, invitations, during the event, reminders, engagement prompts, after the event, follow up, no show, related, ongoing nurture. We did talk about this. Maybe
Yeah, we
in
did.
great
I think
depth.
what's cool about putting it all on one slide is just thinking about making sure that's all connected, right? It's this connected
Okay.
experience. It's not like it doesn't feel random, right? We're creating this congruence throughout the whole campaign.
And I'm trying to push through. I feel bad because I haven't even gotten to Mike's part yet. I talked too long. Okay, so let's put it into practice. You need a communication plan. You have to start with the event and then you build the journey around it. You need to map out your audience, your topic, your invitation plan, your reminder plan, so you have all of that ready, and your follow-up before you even promote the event. Before you put your first social media post up, before you create the event on your website, you need to have this all the way down to the nurture path lined out before you start to make the most of your time. Obviously, some of you have not been doing it this way, and your events are still fun and you still prospect. And like Mike showed on that slide, maybe you're getting 50% when you could be getting 70% of that audience. And so making the most out of your time, utilize these tools, have this full, well-rounded plan prior to starting. And okay, Mike, before I jump on, is there anything else that you have on this one?
It's great.
No. Okay. Now I'm passing the torch to Mike.
All right. Well, I mean, look, it's really simple. First of all, thank you guys for showing up. Thank you so much for participating so much in the chat. It's awesome to hear all the stuff that you guys are doing for events and, just dropping gold in that chat. Love seeing it. Um, if you're running events, which sounds like a lot of you are, Snappy Kraken can help with this. So if you actually just want to go to the next slide, Destiny, we've got we have campaigns for really every piece of this, right? We talk about, well, not the journey, obviously. The journey, you're not going to be launching a marketing campaign. You're actually running the event itself, but getting people to your events. We have a bunch of different event campaigns. They're all customizable to your event. So we have multiple campaigns here. I really love this one that we're kind of showing on the screen here because at like the first part of the campaign, you go in and you can choose from all these different types of events: a dinner party, a wine tasting, golf, blanking on the others. There's like 7 different options, and then it changes everything throughout it, right? You have all these different designs. You add in your event details, everything waterfalls throughout the campaign, and then you can go and customize the event emails, add in a little bit of your own, jazz and pizzazz or whatever you want to do to get people excited, and get people in there. You can download your RSVP list, everything. And they do, right? It's mostly driven by email, but there's social posts in there as well. If you wanted to put this on social, it's a prospecting event to invite lots of people. We've got social posts as well. And then obviously going to the next slide, we had
Oh,
tons of, oh, go ahead.
before we jump past this one, for those of you that are not clients and have not seen this and haven't maybe played around in campaigns before, maybe you're like me and you were an on-site and this was something that you'd have to build out. This was one of the coolest things when I started here. I was like, "Ah, I wish I had this. This was just defaulted. The visual that you're seeing on, and I don't know if you guys mirror, but on the far side where you see the candles and the wine glasses, that's all auto-populated. It's awesome. I mean, that is so amazing. This would have saved me so much time on site. So this is one of my favorite products that we actually have. But
Yeah,
okay,
it's cool. And you get that kind of event website that's the landing page that has all the details. So pretty cool. And then, yeah, obviously we have tons of follow-up. We have event specific follow-up campaigns like this one, which is, hey, you specifically ran this event, let's send a follow-up. But then, like, we've been talking about, if you run retirement seminars, taxes, retirement planning, income, like whatever events you're running on, we probably have some really good content to follow up with that. So you're gonna, run your event, you get people to it. And then maybe you're putting people in like, kind of different groups in Snappy Kraken, like, okay, here's my retirement planning event. And as you run these events, you're adding people into that group, and then you can launch specific campaigns that they're going to be interested in, that are going to add a lot of value for them because it's really related to that event or webinar that they attended. So being able to effectively follow up without building all this stuff by yourself, right? Building the content pieces, landing pages, emails, social posts, like all that stuff, text messages is
huge
super
time
helpful.
saver. Yeah, huge
Huge
time
time
saver.
saver. So, anyways, lots of good stuff. If you do want to see it, yeah, book a call with our team. Happy to walk you through it. They'll show you, you can talk about the specific events that you're running. What type of content would be valuable for you to be able to have to follow up, and you can kind of see what's live on the platform, how to use it, and all that. But thanks
Yeah,
for
and
being here. Thank you, Destiny. You crushed it. This is an awesome webinar on events.
yes, guys, it was so nice chatting with you. If you have any other questions, please feel free to email us or you can book a demo here and we'll talk soon. And you will get a follow-up email from us.
Stay tuned.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, everybody. See ya.